So today I will review for you why, I don't know, SU2 irreducible representations and why it is irreducible. My rest I will not do. Okay. So let me, I am going to consider SU2 Lie algebra. So the standard presentation, okay, which is due to Dirac actually, okay, is the following. Okay, it is spanned by, so let me call it L of SU2. L of SU2 has basis Ji with the relation Ji Jj is I epsilon I Jk Jk. Okay. The reality condition or the hermiticity condition is this. Okay. So what we normally do is introduce raising and lowering operators, which are J plus minus is J1 plus minus Ij2. I think you know this, right? And they have their relations. Okay. Then in an irreducible representation, let me call it gamma J, with orthonormal basis Jm. Okay. So I should write here J is belonging to 0, half, 1. So in an orthonormal basis Jm, okay, where m is going from minus j plus j. Okay. So it's orthonormal. So we have Jm prime is delta mm prime. Okay. These operators we have, these are the basic relations. J3 Jm is mjm, right? Then J plus Jm, let me call it rho m Jm plus 1, right? J minus Jm is sigma m Jm minus 1 where, okay, yeah, you have two relations, rho m squared, which is J minus m J plus m plus 1 sigma m squared is J plus m J minus, I get in minus m plus 1. Normally you choose a phase convention. So you say that, I mean, the phase of these states, overall phase is undetermined. So you simply say that phase is determined by saying that these rho m's and sigma m's are real. Okay? You have that freedom, because if it were not real, you could change the phase of these rays and make them real. Okay? So this is what we have. The most important thing here is, okay, rho m is 0 implies, and is implied by m equal to j, and sigma m equal to 0 is implies and is implied by m equal to minus j. Nowhere else do they vanish. No, we want to prove that this representation is irreducible. Okay? So I just want to show you the kind of proof that goes into this calculation, which I think originally is probably due to Wigner, but it is quite easy. Okay? Suppose V is an invariant subspace in, say, the representation space let me call it Vj of gamma j. Suppose it were the case. I want to show V equal to Vj. So how do I proceed? Because V is invariant, V is invariant, okay, which means JIV is contained in V, and J3 is Hermitian, we can diagonalize J3 in B. Let J0 be its highest eigenvalue okay, in V. Okay. Then, since eigenstates of J3 in Vj are multiplicity free, right? There is no multiple eigenvalue. We can say that J0 is in B. Okay, because there is only eigenvector up to phase. Okay, but since V is a vector space, I can multiply by complex number. But this is the highest eigenvalue, okay, as J0 is highest eigenvalue in V, right? There is no other eigenvalue. It must be the case that J plus J0 is 0. Otherwise, there will be eigenvalue J0 plus 1. But from here, it implies is J0 equal to J. because there is no other eigenstate. Okay. This so implies J minus to arbitrary powers, okay, on Jj is in B. For n, okay, equal to 1, 0, well, 0, 1, whatever it is, J minus 1 up to 2j, right? I mean, so if I write n equal to 2j, I'll get minus j. They are all there because it is an invariant P is invariant, right? So they are all there. So this implies that all the eigenvectors j minus 1, j minus j are in B. So V is Vj. So because it contains a full basis, V is Vj. So it's an irreducible representation, and this J plus and J minus are called raising and lowering operators. Okay. And this technique using raising and lowering operators is generic. In fact, it is the basis of the theory of Lie algebras. Okay. And you may want to look for a simple presentation at Georgi. He is a physicist, okay. And there is a book in World Scientific on Lie algebras of some lectures he gave in Harvard. They are reasonable. Okay. Then I already told you about Orafeti. His lectures here. Okay. They contain the proof. The proof is very clever. You have to, in any case, you can use this. Yesterday I talked about Karthon algebra. No? They commute. So you have to diagonalize them, okay? Then show that in the Lie algebra you can find raising and lowering operators. Then you get these roots and weights and wild chambers, all kinds of beautiful things. Humphreys. Okay. This is a more, this is purely on Lie algebras. Okay? So you may want to look at how it is readable. Okay? First few chapters are Lie algebra. It is simply algebraic, finite dimensional vector spaces. Okay? So it is not heavy analysis. There is no analysis here, but the structures that emerge are quite remarkable, and they are actually used extensively in physics. Okay? That especially in quantum field theory, conformal field theories, and in string theories. Some aspects of vertex operator algebras and so on, you find them extensively used. Casse-Moody algebras, vertex operator algebras, all these things. Okay? So you may want to browse. Georgia, you can certainly look. It is not difficult. They are very useful. He wrote this from the point of view of a particle physicist. So you may want to look. So now I want to look at tensor methods. By the way, Slansky, he has written a physics reports. He has written a whole article summarizing the important results from Lie algebra representations from the point of view of making quantum particle physics models. So it contains all the essential results. Okay? So you will see all these basic ideas explained. Then he summarizes things in tables. Okay? So in Patera, there is a guy called Patera. He has written another book. So it is a popular field by physicists doing particle physics. Okay? So these three are directly related to particle physics. Okay? So I want to look at tensor methods. Okay? So what we have got here is, suppose we are given a representation okay. Let me call it say A to TA of a group G on Cn. So it's an n-dimensional vector space. Okay. So TA is some matrix. Okay. So if X, which is x1 up to xn, belongs to Cn, then TAX okay, is ith component is I prime x of I prime. Acts on the columns. Now, a tensor of rank nu okay, associated to this representation is an element, let me call it F, okay, belonging to C to the n to the nu. Okay. So F is a multi-component, okay, where okay, with components F, let write I1 up to I nu, where each Ij belongs to 1 up to n. Okay. So it is acting here. So this is Cn tensor nu times. So the typical component will be like this. Sorry, these are complex numbers.
No, Cn.
Cn is a complex vector space.
Okay. So is that up till now it's been a real?
No. The representations are always complex. For example, even though for Lie algebra, for SU2, the J's are restricted to this Hermitian, is acting on a complex vector space. Otherwise, I cannot even diagonalize of J plus won't exist or anything. Okay. So in that thing, we will finally choose certain operators by some reality condition like Hermiticity. Okay. Okay. But otherwise, if you do things on a real vector space, things get very heavy. Okay. In fact, we shall see here that when I descend to real groups, okay, the rules for reduction or the representation we get gets very complicated, and I will not have time even to deal with it. I can refer them to you, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Things get really complicated because of the difficulty of diagonalizing operators. Okay. So this notation means that this means this is a standard notation. This is Cn tensor nu times. Okay. So on this this represents f, okay, the g acts by the representation T. Okay. Let me define for you T. TAF I1 up to I nu is, I have to tell you TA I1 prime, TA I nu prime times f of I1 prime I nu prime. So this can be summarized by saying, that is called, let me call it I as a multi-index. Then we can summarize by saying TAF I is this object, we need notation TA tensor nu times, okay. Then I have I prime acting on f of I prime. Okay, now so we want to, this representation is given to you. Now we want to reduce it. The issue we are going to deal, this is all, we can always do this, okay. Given A to TA is irreducible, so let me write IRR. How do we reduce it? Into irreducible components. This is the question we want to understand. Okay. Then when we understand a little bit, we will see that we will get automatically representations of all compact Lie groups. Okay. Kinetic components for them quite easily. I mean, there are rules, and they are very plausible rules. Okay. So for that, we proceed, okay, to understand this. Let me now call this the following way: the commutant let me call it T prime of T. What do we mean by that? Okay. By T prime, we mean all operators commuting with all TA. Okay. Now, their role, in the case of finite, in the case of regular representation, okay, for T prime is similar, is similar. T prime is not a representation, it's a, let me call we mean the algebra of all operators. Is T prime is similar to the algebra of right regular representation if for TA being left regular. You remember that for groups we had left and right regular representations, and they had the property that one commuted with the other. It is the same here. But the thing is that there T prime, this one was the algebra of the representations left and right were the same, like up to isomorphism. Right? Here that is not the case. So idea is if x is in T prime, it is clear that x times c to the n nu is an invariant subspace. Under T. Right? TA will commute with x. So we choose suitable, we choose suitable x to reduce. That is the same strategy we pursued for left and right. So what is this T prime? Okay. Now let us do the following. Okay. The permutation group S nu acts on the indices of the tensors. What do I mean by that? Okay. It will just act. Okay. So, if so I belongs to this number 1 up to nu, okay, and S at S is a permutation. Okay. Si is image of S I under, okay, is a permuted I. The permuted value of I. Right? S will permute these things. So you can see what happens at the ith place. Okay? If I start with some particular I, it will become something else. Okay? So I give you the rule. Okay? Then I say SF I1 up to I nu is F at I S1 I S nu. Each of them take n values. There are n indices, each taking n values. Okay? You should remember that. Okay? The depth of each index is n, but there are n of them, okay? Nu of them, and this is just permuting them. It is clear that since this object TA, remember I wrote this, I prime was TA I1 prime, TA I nu prime. It is clear, right, that TA, right, S of I, this whole set, S of I prime is TA of I prime. Clear? This is clear because it just takes one of them and puts it somewhere else. Okay. I1 prime will become I of S1, I prime of S1. It just moves it from one position to another position. This whole thing is completely symmetric. Okay. So we have got this. So we see immediately implies, so let's write STA I prime on some vector f of I prime. Let me see if it let me work it out. Okay, this is, how does it go? I want to get my notation right. Yeah. So this is equal to, what is it, alpha hat? Yeah, right. So this is equal to S acting on, well, S is so S is going to, so S is going to do the following, is TA of Si I prime times f of I prime, right? Whereas the other way around, TAS I prime is going to times f of I prime is equal to, here is TA, so it is TA of is I, no? So I am a little puzzled. Indices are right? Okay, let me try. TA I J no, it's okay. I prime times SF of I prime. Okay. Okay. So this is equal to TA I prime times this, I write it down, f of S of I prime okay. But this is equal to, I change variables, this is a permutation, so this is equal to TA I S inverse of I prime times f of I prime but by that identity here, by this identity, how do I write it? If I replace I by S inverse I prime by S inverse, how do you go? I prime by S inverse I prime, okay. I'll find that this is equal to the other one with S. Yeah. So this is equal to this equation 1 by this star identity. Because here in this, I have got this equation, so I can simply replace I prime by S inverse of I prime. Okay. If I do that, and I by S inverse of I. Wait a minute. No, I prime by S inverse of I prime. I don't do anything to the other one. So this will go away. But here I will get S inverse of I prime. Okay. So you get S, I can move S inverse to S here. If I have an S inverse here, I can move it to an S here, which is what I have done here. I have an S inverse and I moved it to S. Okay. So the statement is therefore, so T prime is a group algebra of S nu. At least it contains. The commutant of the representation we are considering contains the group algebra of S nu. Okay. It is a fundamental result. Now, it's not difficult to prove, but I will skip it. Okay. Boerner, for example, proves that this is important for if GLN G is GLN C, general linear group in n dimensions, T prime is C S nu. Okay. For other groups, if you make this group smaller, this will become bigger. Okay. This equation is what these people keep talking about, called Schur-Weyl duality. Is an aspect of that. The two different groups are somehow related. Okay. Right? On one side you have some continuous GLN, the other side you have the permutation group. They are somehow related. Okay. You can conversely, to find the representations of S nu, reducing the representations of S nu on n new indices, I can use projectors chosen from GLN algebra. Okay. So there is a duality in this whole business. Okay. Now I want to show here that we are already dealing. This is not a good place to not to do it. Okay. We are already encountering the basic idea of Hopf algebras. Hopf algebra, I won't, of course, we'll come back later, and particle statistics. We are doing it. Okay. Why? Because group theory does not tell how G acts on C to the power into the nu. Group theory is not telling you how to, I mean, it tells you how to take products in the group. It doesn't tell you how to split the thing and act on. There is no such thing. So some new thing is being, so when we do composite particles in quantum field theory, we are going beyond group theory. What is it? What we are introducing what they call a co-algebra structure. I will tell you what it is. An isomorphism, I will tell you, is very easy here. morphism delta from CG is a group, this is a group algebra G, to CG cross CG. I give you the rule. I mean, we are splitting the element of the algebra. How? Delta is what is called a coproduct. So delta of A is A cross A. We tell that the two particles should be for in the group, and for generic, this is in the A is in G, and for generic element, okay, delta of psi I AI is psi I delta AI. Okay, AI is in G. Okay, this for a group element, we simply do this. But since the group elements, for example, for a finite group, form a basis for the group algebra, we extend it by linearity to the whole group algebra. So this is the coproduct, and it is a is an isomorphism. That is, if I take delta of AB is delta A delta B. Okay. Then, okay, G acts on, or in fact, CG acts on C to the power n tensor C to the n by this representation T cross T delta A. So A going to this. Okay. This act on this. So this is, this way we can compose. Here the T's can even be different. Okay. This rule, once I am given this, okay, this can be anything. Okay. Can replace second T by another representation. So we are splitting one A into two A's, but then you can go on to splitting. That is, you can go into three particles and so on. Right? Can extend to, I'll tell you, higher splittings. I'll give you for, like for example, I can do the following. Take delta A, splits into 2, okay. Then I split again, identity cross delta A, delta. So I first split it into 2, this is A cross A in this case. This would do, so this is A cross A cross A. Then again we can, so this is a coproduct, and the statistics group a permutation group arises as commutant of a, as commutant in at some level C to the power n to the power nu, okay, of above representation. Okay, it is S nu for our problem. In our case, it is just a permutation. You get permutation group. You should really think about the permutation group as coming from particle identity. Okay? That is the source of this thing, because you are saying that the new particles are transforming in the same way, but there are more general deltas. Okay, more general deltas. Delta and statistics groups do arise. They are exactly in dual relationship. Example will be in conformal field theories. Okay. Example. Okay. So the coproduct delta. Okay. Example, conformal field theory. Okay. CG is replaced by something called SUNQ. Q is some deformation parameter of the group algebra. This is a co-algebra. It is in fact a half algebra. Is commutant CG prime, okay, is a break group. At level nu. So level nu means you take nu fold tensor product. You ask what is a commute? It is a break group. Okay. So the statistics group gets changed. So meaning of particle identity changes, and that immediately changes the physics of the problem. For example, in topological insulators. Okay. So this is how we are sneaking in some extra information beyond group theory while doing quantum physics. Until now, without paying attention. But now we have to pay attention because we are finding that this changed structure is quite important. So,
This approach to the braid group makes it easier to deal with, because the braid group is generally very badly behaved.
huh?
The braid group for any
It is very bad in terms of as a group.
yeah, because it's huge. And,
It's huge,
yeah.
but you don't get that whole huge group. We don't know its representation theory, but we know it has many invariant subgroups. Okay? So the quotients, what normally typically occurs, is not a full break group, okay, but some quotient, some unfaithful representation of it. Okay? It could be even one-dimensional representation when you get instead of fermions or bosons, you get particles of fractional statistics. Okay? So just the statistics is changed, the phase is changed. When you exchange them, you get some arbitrary phase, but everything else is the same. Okay? Or you may get non-abelian representations, which are finite dimensional. So it depends. Depending on Q, here Q is called the QD from. You get a particular representation of the break group.
So that labels the
in this case, it labels the representation completely. Okay? For the Q deformed one, then this break group fulfills some identities, just like the permutation group fulfills some identities. The generators of the permutation group fulfill some identities. There are generalized identities for the break group, which are called the braiding relations, which lead you to immediately to what are called Yang-Baxter relations. Okay? You might have heard about it. Okay? R matrix and Yang-Baxter relations. They are all here. So we are at the beginning of this whole enterprise. Okay? They are here and they are not very difficult to understand if one understands their physical source. They can be understood physically. Okay? And you can even tell what to do using Schwinger construction. Okay. You have studied it. There are Schwinger constructions for many of these things. Okay. So then you can see. Okay. So particle identity, the meaning of particle identity gets generalized in a very important way. Okay. And there is much to be studied, and in my opinion also, the way it is used in condensed matter seem to be flawed, I would say. Okay. They say it can be used for quantum computation and so on. You might have heard topological quantum computers. I don't think that's correct, okay? Because there are some subtle features which they seem not to have paid attention to, but whereas they have been encountered in a somewhat different context in particle physics and have now got resolved. But they are not paying attention. Once you get it resolved, what they are hoping they can do, they cannot do. Okay? Something else you can do. Okay? So there are issues, very interesting issues here. Okay? So anyway, this is a side set of remarks, okay, which I thought is appropriate to say here. But now I want to tell you, okay, so we started the representations of JLNC, IRRs. So we are using this particular co-product I told you. By the way, for Poincare group, turns out that there are many other co-products. Okay? Normally we compose particles with different momentum and angular momentum in particle physics. For Poincare group, we use this A cross A type route. Okay? All the representation theory reduction is, however, it was Drinfeld who pointed out that there are more general possibilities called the Drinfeld twist. Okay? And that has suddenly become very important in the following way. If you take the Drinfeld twist to make the Poincare representation for 2 particles or n particles, the statistics group is no longer, the permutation is twisted. Okay? So the particle identity is given by a new rule of twisting. Okay? And then by some further argument, you end up by the statement that the space-time will become non-commutative. Okay? They all get linked. So the statistics group, the choice of the co-product, it turns out actually determines the nature of space-time and the nature of statistics. Okay? It's a miraculous thing that is going on here. I would say that it is not well understood. Okay? We have written a number of papers and only now are beginning to appreciate this link, strong link. Okay? So there is much to be done also on a phenomenology level. But let me leave that and go here. So for GLNC, okay, we choose the starting representation IRR as this matrix A goes to TA, which I will call again as A, n by n matrix. Okay. So A is simply Aij is n cross n matrix. Okay. So I want to know, consider, okay, its representation T, which I wrote as T Nth power. Okay. I want to reduce it. So what the way we proceed is, okay, yeah, to reduce it, write down frames of S nu. Sorry? Yeah, frames. Okay. So nu equal to 3, it will be 1, right? 2 and 3. Okay. I may as well say that, well, there is some twist I have to worry about. So let me write down standard index diagrams. So here it will be index diagram, the numbers increase from left to right. Right? So this is 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, and then here 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. Now I can write each will give an IRR. Okay. Same frames giving equivalent IRRs. Okay. So now what do we do? 3. Let E, okay, be QP for a diagram, for one of these diagrams. Okay, P is the sum of all the horizontal permutations. Q is all the sum of vertical permutations. Same notation, but for the symmetry group I use the other way around. Okay? But the convention I twisted because this is what I find in Werner. So one particular E. Okay? Then this is a theorem. I will come EF J1 EF Ji, okay, spans that's not. Then okay, the tensors EF, okay, with components EF, I'll give you what it is, J1, J2, J3, J1 up to Jn, J nu, span and IRR. I'll give you what it is. Okay. Example, for diagram 2, I'll actually work it out. EF will have components EF, okay, J1, J2, J3. Okay. So you, yeah, it will have component A1, J1, J2. So here for 3, okay, this E acts differently. For 3, it will be E, F. Okay. Let me write it as J1, J3, J2. You understand what I should really write it this E, the way it acts here, in this and this are different. Okay. You follow what I am saying? Here it will symmetrize J1 and J2, then anti-symmetrize in what remain in the vertical direction, J1 and J3. Here it will symmetrize in J1 and J3 and anti-symmetrize in J1 and J2. Okay. Now, but the J1, J2, J3 have n values. So you will get it when I write this and write all possible values of F, you will get a column vector. Okay. Such column vectors will span the reducible representation. Okay. So we will work it out next time. So I will stop here, I think. But yeah. We are on the edge of some very interesting developments, as I told you, okay? Because we are, you can see that at this level we are already getting into this field of Hopf algebras, but also we are getting into the activities of this maths people. This duality was what people like Amri does. Okay? I did not know that it was of interest to maths people, but apparently it seems.